We are Borg. You will be assimilated.
I am Locutus of Borg. Resistance is futile. Your life, as it has been, is over. From this time forward, you will service us.
You will be assimilated.
Resistance is futile.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Your culture will adapt to service us. Resistance is futile.
Good morning. Well, that's been an interesting day, hasn't it? So we've got a total hoax going on, a total deception, probably the grandest deception of all time. I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it? So you've got this massive deception. They're dragging out old people who've got serious health problems and saying that they've died of this, what do they call it? Let's call it 5G, because that's what it is. Because the emission is from a 5G transmitter. Let's just call it what it is. So they're dying from the 5G, right? They're not dying from, because they're just making it up. I mean, the whole thing's a hoax. So the whole mainstream media now is a hoax. This is the last roll of the dice. Got to remember, it's the last roll of the dice, because people are waking up. I mean, how many people do you talk to and they're going, the mainstream, they're overblowing this. So more people die falling out of bed. Do you get it? More people die falling out of bed. The whole thing is a hoax. That's why they keep telling you. They're telling you it's a hoax. In the small print, likes the things of had serious other health complications but died of this corona. No, well, they didn't, because if you look at it, they tell you they've got serious health problems. The person's just died. Have they done a post-mortem? Was it really the cause? Obviously not. So it's totally fake. Mainstream media fake. It's why you had the NHS trolling me. I had the World Health Organization trolling us. I had the BBC trolling us. The whole troll is when you're right over the target, because they know, as we do, as the Chinese in Wuhan know. You heard them in the video the other day shouting out the windows, fake, fake, to the government ministers. It's all fake. All right, because they know they're on the ground. So they've got a fake virus organised by 5G. That's quite interesting, because you imagine you just keep tweaking it now and again. Turn it up, turn it down, turn it up, turn it down. Get them antivirals with the metal particulates in them, all right, and foreign bodies. I read a fantastic scientific document yesterday about some of the metals that they've got in that they're not even supposed to have in. Tungsten. Interesting one, that. So virals found with foreign bodies in. Very interesting. And the regulator in Europe said that they dispute the science. I've looked at the science. You cannot dispute it. It's just a matter of fact. So the regulator is saying they're disputing it. So that antiviral, believers, your flu shot, it's going to be the death of you. Well, you know, it is stupidity. If you're stupid, unfortunately, you can't be saved. You're actually classed as a creature. You're classed as a creature. It's like a subhuman standing, and consequently, they then can have they shouldn't, but they can just kill you. So by the time you get that, once you take that injection, you're tacitly agreeing to die. And you are classed as subhuman. That's the reality of it. You're classed as a creature because you're wooden in the head. All right, so the grandest deception of all time, not the greatest crime of all time, that's 5G. That's 5G LED immune system suppressing equipment they've just brought into your streets. And we've got councils lying right across the country to constituents. Won't give out the details now. Just, in fact, I know a few people who've sent freedom information requests and just not replying. So just shut up shop. They've shut up shop. They're not going to reply, because what happens every time they reply, you've got to remember this is a crime we're talking about, and every document you have can be presented to a court. Now that shows they're not sure they're going to win. all right? Because if they were sure they would win, they would just send it. In fact, here's a really interesting one. If the cabal thought they were really sure they would win, what they would have done, they would have insured it. Because Lloyds wouldn't be paying out. None of the insurance companies would be paying out because you'll be dead. So consequently, why are Lloyds not insuring it? It's because they know we win. You see, they aren't that stupid. They're like the cabal, all right? Because they analysts, their people have looked at this and they do not want to pay out on the death, on the mass death and destruction caused by this killer technology, all right? So that's why your 5Gs and others, uninsured, LEDs, uninsured, transmitters in your streets, emitting 450 nanometers frequency light radiation, biologically toxic, kills all life. Interesting, isn't it? So you're living in the greatest deception of all time. The mainstream media are a bunch of criminals. It's all they are. A bunch of lying, thieving criminals. Well, like, not really thieving, I can't really say that, but lying. And obviously bearing false witness testimony is a crime. Misconduct in a public office is a crime. I put a video up yesterday about this, and people need to start acting. Get active. Get active. Can't handle offensive actions, believe us. What they want you to do, sit back and sit on your computer. So I'm encouraging everybody, and there are quite a lot of people there now who are ready to take action and are taking action because they have declared a secret war on you. All right, a secret covert war to kill you, to maim you, to take your property from you, to damage your brain, cause you dementia, to take your property from you. Do you understand? This is the massive, largest crime ever to be perpetrated on mankind. Because you see that immune system suppressor, that pulse modulated 450 nanometers, that'll give you dementia. So you're driving in it on motorways, you're driving in it, you're coming home to it, your kids are being exposed to it, your pets are being exposed to it. It is toxic to biological life. Don't believe the bullshit. They'll tell you it's safe. I can tell you now, it's not. They don't know, and where they're getting this safe from, it's totally, mentally retarded. That's all they are. But that's what you see in the public sector. So it's got a massive cover-up. Unfortunately for them, they die as well. So that just shows how stupid. So they're supporting a lie that's going to kill them and their kids and their family. So if you've got anybody who works in the public sector, you know anybody who works in any of these organisations, right? Try and speak to the good ones, because a lot of good people in there. I spoke to some quite interesting people last week, military, speak to some people in the police. Very, very interesting, good people who are going to start standing up and being enacting to stop this crime against us. You just keep going with the flow, go with the flow and die, or join the resistance, be the resistance and live. Simple, simple. Which choice? It's your choice. You've got free will. It's up to you.
It's really liberating to understand what's going on. I would certainly rather know than not know. Once you find out about the chemtrail spraying, you can't unlearn it. And I couldn't live in a world where I know this is going on and do nothing about it, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm just as guilty as the guy releasing that nozzle from that jet. So I feel it's my responsibility to the earth and to everything and everyone on it to try and help the situation. We are a collective, we're a team, and we've got to fix this. The media is owned by 6 corporations. I mean, we're being told what to believe. We have to be able to develop our own critical thinking abilities so we can see past the lies. Living in a big city, I became very conductive with the metals in my body, which are extremely difficult to excrete. So moving to a more rural area, the electromagnetics aren't as severe, but when they're spraying, they still affect me neurologically, so it's very difficult. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune illness, so it was never really specific. So I knew I had heavy metal poisoning, so I got some tests, and I had the perfect chemtrail footprint, really. I have the barium, the aluminum, the strontium, the manganese.
Barium deposits in the muscles, lungs, and bone. It strips immune-protecting selenium from the body. Water-soluble barium can cause difficulties in breathing stomach and chest pains, increased blood pressure, heart arrhythmia, and damage to the heart, liver, and kidneys. Aluminum, a desiccant, sucks nutrients and moisture from air and soil. Aluminum strips the body of boron, necessary for strong bones and metabolizing phosphorus and magnesium. In plants, aluminum produces chlorosis, a condition where there is insufficient chlorophyll for photosynthesis. Nanoaluminum is a major causal factor in the dramatic rise of Alzheimer's. It enters the brain via nasal passages. Nanoparticles of aluminum accumulates in the bone marrow, lymph nodes, heart, and cell membranes. Aluminum binds with fluoride to greatly increase fluoride toxicity.
See, here's the thing. The way that they're going to kill people is by giving them flu-like symptoms. That's going to cause fluid in their lungs, pneumonia. What they do is they spray these components, and then we breathe them in. Animals breathe them in. They're spraying them on the plant life that takes them in.
That we eat.
That's right. And then what goes into our lungs, our body wants to expel. This is microscopic, very small stuff.
Sure.
So it comes back up in the phlegm, in the mucus, and then we swallow it. We swallow it, it goes down into the acid-rich environment, and that's where the crystallization begins. So these little component elemental parts that go down in there, then they begin to replicate. And these are crystals that are replicating, and they grow to a predetermined diameter, which is very small. They're going to be 10 nanometers, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 nanometers, very, 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 very small. Then on the corners of these crystal formations, once they grow to that specific size that they were commanded to grow to, then on each corner is where the filaments grow. And what you're going to be looking at it resembles very much a tick. So it has arms and it has antennae. Whenever they first start growing, they look the same, but then they become more noticeable as appendages for mobility and antennae for communication. This is what's made out of the same silicone-based stuff, if you will, that causes the balance disease. The goal is to create it's like a matrix, a real-world simulation populated with real-world hosts. A little you and a little me is in there, just like in the Matrix, with Neo and Morpheus. They're having a conversation just like we are. And the goal is to take the feed from us, from our respiration, our heartbeat, everything, and feed it directly to the real-world host to make it as real as possible. Over 70% of the population can be integrated into the real-world simulation. The oddities of the human anatomy make it so that a percentage of the population cannot be integrated. But they're breaking the nanometer barrier more and more, down from 10 nanometers down to 5 nanometers, and they are helping AI to get a better hold on what he's supposed to do, which is reattach amino acids to bugs like the H1N1 bug. The only thing that made that not a super strain and a super killer was the removal of 2 amino acids that they want AI to put back in, to put the teeth back into the guy. When everybody has the H1N1 in them right now, that's the first half of the binary. All they need to do is put the 2 amino acids back, and then you have, in different populations, you're going to get different super strains that are going to evolve out of that until you get the super deadly killer. So they can use AI with using voice commands to eliminate an individual, a family, or a race of people by AI and the nanos, this carrier wave, subfrequencing on top. So it's like broadband for the communication of AI and the nanos inside your body for gathering all the information, back and forth communication, for giving information to the real world host. So the idea is to build and populate the real world simulations. The feed is coming from us to them, but then the plan is to reverse the feed.
Right.
So they reverse the feed, then they get the real world host working ahead of us, and then they reverse the feeds, and then I'm being controlled by the host inside the simulation. That's what they're doing. But it's not just for people. It's not just for animals. It's for everything. The people actually working on my people as a mystery virus. They don't know what it is, basically. And then it's going to work in the lungs first, and then it's going to cause the body to begin going into convulsions, and then heart palpitations, and then the heart is just going to give out. What they do is they use the nanos that, like I said, they can work together, and they they build nodes inside the main arteries of the heart. They build them and then they unbuild them. They build them to kill the person, and then they unbuild them. So a member of my family had to go, and she didn't have any plaque or anything in her system. She had to go to the hospital and get a stent put in her heart because these nodes started growing. They had identified 2 small nodes growing in her heart. This is going through the same time period that I'm talking to you about whenever my mother and 2 of my cousins were all from the same symptoms. This mystery deal that was going on. And the members of my group, there were 13 of them that we know about, and the youngest one was 25 years old, and she has a stent in her heart too.
Oh my gosh. Young people who have there's no business or good reason for this to happen other than the direct attack for what you were exposing. Wow.
Each person was found unconscious by the people and taken to the hospital unconscious, and then they went through the fluid in the lungs phase, and then the heart phase after that, until they wound up having to have stents in their heart. And my mom was on the way to the hospital to get her stent whenever she passed.
And this is what happened to many members of your family.
That's right.
When you started disclosing this and digging into this research, and other key members of your family. What I was thinking of, this amazing man lost members of his family all in the same week once the work exposing this came out. And so obviously they have some kind of means to turn on some kind of virus inside of us that, like you were saying, it causes flu-like symptoms, it fills the lungs with fluid. But what I wanted to know is that, you're telling me how we can disable this now in our bodies by using some things.
Now, that's the only known replication inhibitor that knew of, and that's the only one that I know of so far. It's the similarity to those filaments and the cell walls of fungi. Very, very similar. That's the same things. Apple cider vinegar has a 9.3 pH. Raising your pH makes it more difficult for the fungi and the nanos.
Wow. So what we're talking about?
The higher the pH. Yeah, go ahead.
What we're talking about here, folks, is boron, or it's a mineral, boron, and a very common, very easily accessible, cheap form of that is actually something that you might have in your laundry room right now called 20-mule team borax. So you take a pinch of that in water every day. Is that all you do?
In my morning drinking, I got my drinking water glass right here. And in the morning, then I put 1 pinch in. This is a pint. So I put 1 pinch in, and I drink maybe 5 or 6 glasses per day. So in the morning, and then once again around noon, and then in the evening, I just take 1 pinch. Just the smallest little pinch that you can put in, that's all it takes to have it, to have that in your system. And I didn't mention to you the maximum doses allowed by the FDA. That's going to be a 1/4 teaspoon for if you're a 200-pound man, and 1/8 of a teaspoon if you're a 100-pounder.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just using a pinch, you're never going to get near that.
Well, it seems like they're not going to be as hard against a group like, maybe I'm wishful thinking here, and I hope I'm right. You and I talking about this in a conversational way, not what you were doing, which is was a big time, very well established scientists, astronomers, people who could write the papers and inform the community at large in a really legitimate way. So perhaps this kind of work where we're just talking about it and sharing it with people, they're just going to let that go under the radar. Whereas with you, that's why they had to stop it, because you had a very valid way that you were coming at this.
Right. They're not afraid of me at all. They are afraid of they've got their letters behind their name. They're accredited. They have the opportunity to have a very loud voice very quickly on something like that. So the idea is to keep everything low key, and then use my lack of education.
Exactly.
Is actually helping me to do this.
Same.
Right? So,
very good. My degree's in theater right now.
And if we focus on the health benefits, there's 24 health benefits. You're going to decalcify the pineal gland.
Right.
You're going to be able to think more clearly. You're going to get the 75% of the people in the United States already have the death cycle initiated. So the fungi overgrowth is already happening in just about all of the people that are listening.
When Terrell first said this about this morgellons being a replication accident, I at first was doubtful. But if you think about it, the powers that be would not want us to see proof of this program inside our bodies. And that's exactly what Morgellons does. It's silicon replication in ungoverned overdrive, like some nano-sized alien cancer, spitting its tangled silicon filaments and crystals through people's skin. It's certainly taken this whole concept of our being inhabited from total fiction into an event with physical evidence left behind. Not that everyone claiming this issue is legit, but many are and have proof. These poor people suffering from this replication overgrowth are haunted with itchy skin where lesions form as the silicon life forms come through their epidermis. Of course, looking like they are on drugs with some of these lesions all over them, many are desperate to know what's happening, but doctors just label them as delusional parasitosis and send them home with antibiotics. Many take matters into their own hands by microscopes to study the filaments themselves. Here is one example.
All right, let's see. These guys were moving a minute ago. Let me move them a bit into the picture. You can see if they're still moving or not. Yeah, you can sort of see them moving there. See them? See the little self moving around there? See if I can get a little bit closer. There we go. Oh yeah. Wow, this is awesome. I finally got one on film moving. Once he gets, oh, look at, ooh, there he really is moving now. Nice. Wow. I have felt these things like move up and down my skin, literally felt them move up and down my skin. And now you can actually see it moving.
We are Borg. You will be assimilated.
I am Locutus of Borg. Resistance is futile. Your life, as it has been, is over. From this time forward, you will service us.
You will be assimilated.
Resistance is futile.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Your culture will adapt to service us. Resistance is futile.